being broke for me was one of the best things that ever happened in my life. I remember the roaches. I remember the rats. I remember having to wear the same thing to school. I remember living in a hotel. I can still smell the hotel breakfast in the Days Inn. Like if I smell, it brings me back to those days. I will never be broke again because I know how it feels.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Melanin Money Show. And I know y'all see we in a new setup. We in the den today. Shout out to my brother Jake, Taylor Jacobs, for letting us hold it down.
It's a phenomenal setup,
It's a phenomenal setup, man. So it's a, you know, you be on the internet and people be having like, you know what I'm saying, like fake setups. You walk in, it's like, yo, I thought you had a whole spot. What is this? This is a wall? Like, nah, it's a whole office. It's a whole situation. And he blessed us with being able to record here today. So we're excited. I mean, as of this recording, we are hours outside of our first stop on the live podcast tour.
Yes, we are.
So super excited for that. But, you know, we got to stay consistent and committed.
Yeah. Right? So this is the definition of no excuses, man. This is also a definition of relationships are always your greatest resource, right?
Big facts.
We had a relationship with Jake, and he let us, even though we're in Dallas now, we have to drive to Houston for our podcast tour. We still were able to reserve a place to get this episode recorded. And I'm excited. So those of you all that are not watching on YouTube, pause this episode and go on YouTube because we actually swaggy right now, bro.
We are swaggy.
Be swaggy.
Right?
Yeah.
He might give you some drip tips. You know what I'm saying? New segment, drip tips.
Which is,
clean up on aisle 6. It's a whole lot of drip. You know what I'm saying? But nah, man, we're super excited for this episode, man. So when I was thinking about something that was relevant that we should talk about, you hear the term black tax, right? You hear it broadly. Typically, you hear it just under the spectrum of like being, you know, maybe a successful child, and then you're helping out your parents or your family members,
athlete,
exactly,
you know, other family, yeah.
But I kind of wanted to expand upon that a little bit, and also just talk about the financial trauma associated with that. Because when I saw the thing that made me want to talk about it more is I saw a young lady who she's successful. She's actually in the financial education space, has a course, all that kind of stuff, and she said that she didn't want to have kids because she's experiencing firsthand like how she's having to take care of her mom, right? And that's kind of creating like financial trauma for her because like, well, the money that I need to accelerate my personal wealth building journey, I'm having that, which I'm happy to do, but I'm having to help out my mom, and that's impacted my perspective or desire to have a child. So I thought that was interesting because in a way that's kind of a black tax, right? Like it's a lot of us who, you know, we're happy to do it, but we have parents, we have friends, we have I think I've even heard somebody position it as survivor's remorse to a degree, right? It's like where it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, man, I made it out. Like, because at the end of the day, a lot of us came from places where, you know, we could have been them. We could have been in jail. We could have, you know, got caught up selling drugs, right? But we made it out. And sometimes people even have guilt for that. So I just think it's just an opportunity for us to just unpack that a little bit. Yeah. Things that impact us directly, right? And things that we kind of just have visibility to from things that we've seen.
Yeah. So let's talk about like what is the black tax? I just learned about this maybe like 4 years ago, bro.
Yeah.
So when I looked it up, so the black tax is actually a tax upon the people who are successful that came from nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we have these profit shirts on. Shout out to you for these shirts. On the back of the shirt, I love it. It says, "How can I lose when I came from nothing?" You know what I'm saying? So the black tax is a certain segment of people who you came from nothing. Like, you know, I came from the south side of Chicago and I made it out. And so the black tax is all those people that knew I made it out that are looking for help, and I know they need help because I was just in their position not too long ago.
Exactly.
So whether it's a financial help or clothes or whatever, but they need help, and so we feel obligated to help those people.
Right.
And what we don't realize is that if we help auntie, we help sis, we help bro, like. They don't know about the other 10 people that asked for help. They just like, hey, bro, help me out this one time, bro. And like, they know you got it.
Facts.
So you really can't say you don't got it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And the challenge with that, though, is like back in college, right? Or, you know, for those y'all who went to college, and you always got so frustrated. It's like, don't this professor know that 6 other professors is giving me homework, give me assignment, I got a test coming up, right? They're only thinking about their problem, right? So I try to operate from a space of empathy, but at the same time, it's like, yo, like if we give it out, right, I'm not gonna have it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, what is that fine line between I have the desire to help the people I love while also not shooting myself in the foot and also not feeling resentment, right, towards them. I also think that breeds into hustle culture because it's like, not only did I make it out, but it's like, I got to keep going because so many people are depending upon me.
It's like some people, and this is why they call it the black tax. Some people actually end up in a worse position than they were before, right? Some people start because when you were broke, everybody know you broke, ain't nobody pulling from you,
Right.
Right. But when you got it and you giving it out to every single person, then you might end up putting yourself in debt because you keep saying yes too much. So you might end up putting yourself in a worse position than you were because everybody's pulling from you. We see with athletes all the time. They buy their mama house, they buy their cousin house, they buy do this and that, do all that. And now they're like having to go play just for the check to be able to pay bills.
Big facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So I think the one of the point of today's conversation is like, at what point is the black tax acceptable? Right? And at what point do you just have to put your foot in the ground and just say no? Because guess what? If you don't have it no more, then where everybody else gonna go?
Right, and then everybody's hurting.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like if you would say don't bite the hand that feeds you. Right, it's like if I ain't got it, now we all screwed. So it's like I think there has to be a level of transparency with the person who is the guy or girl. Right, it's like, hey, look, I would love to help. Right, obviously I would love to help, and I don't want to deceive you like I'm not successful. However, if we want to really build a sustainable ecosystem for our family, I got to kind of invite y'all into the realities of what this means, right? Y'all might see, had $1 million day or whatever the case may be, but did you see the payroll, right? Did you see all the money I got to pay for infrastructure, for software to keep this stuff afloat? So it's like, I think we also have to do a better job of letting them in to let them know, because all they see is the results. All they see is like, well, you got it, bro. You got to have it, right? Versus letting them know like, hey, yes, I've done well for myself, but here's how all this works, and here's why I have to, pace myself. It's the reason why Apple has a ton of money on the cash on the balance sheet, right? They got to weather the storm.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I think we just have to let people in, let them know what's really going on. I think that's one of the ways. And I also think we need to, what was I going to say? We need to invite them into not only the decision-making process, but also, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
Why do you think about that?
Yeah.
Let's do stories. When was the first time you had the first encounter with the black tax? Meaning like your family first knew you made it. They was like, hey man, you got it now. Talk to me. What was that first experience like, and how did you handle it?
You want to know the real first experience?
Yeah.
The first experience was like elementary school. Believe it or not. Right? So I was the kid that would cut grass. I would do whatever I could do to stack money in elementary school, right? To the point where I had aunts and uncles asking to borrow money way back then. They're like, yo, bro, I noticed, you know what I'm saying? You don't never spend the money. We be telling you get the toys, but like, nah, I'm good on that. And so I had family members asking me for money in elementary school. And now mind you, I didn't know what interest was by definition, but I was like, all right, if I give you this 20, I give you this dub, I'm gonna need a little more back than this 20. You know what I'm saying? And my mom can tell you, my mom can verify that was elementary school. So that was the first like just low key version. But I would say outside of that, I think it was like my third year in entrepreneurship. And I was going on like a birthday trip, and it was like, this dude, he living it up. Like he must be doing all right for himself. And I just started seeing family members out the woodwork started asking for money. Like, yo, G, can you help me out? Can you know what I'm saying? I got somebody asked me for like help me out with rent. I was just like, yo, like, well, that's a little audacious.
Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's not the $20 for gas to get you to the next destination. That's like,
so at that point I was like, okay, people are pocket watching a little bit. But again, I had the desire to help, right? And so for me, where the line is always drawn, mom's is always gonna be good. Mom, like,
there's no such thing as no. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was my first kind of moment where it was like, yo, okay, people are catching notice and they have expectations for my money even before I do. What's going on, guys? I'm George.
I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Carter.
And we are your money mentors. But today we wanted to talk to you about a really special feature, Financial Flicks. Can you imagine an entire on-demand library of financial content across 3 main categories: wealth building, entrepreneurship, and personal finance, so that you can take your finances to the next level?
Guys, when you replace entertainment with education, your life will change forever. Imagine replacing 1 hour of Netflix with 1 hour of Financial Flicks. Imagine how much further that could take you to your financial destination. And we have the perfect library for you.
Yeah, so if you're ready to Financial Flicks and chill with us to put more of your energy into education, then join us in the club. We can't wait to see you there.
See you there.
Yeah. That's fair. Mine, let me think. I think mine was in college.
Okay.
So, we get them refund checks.
Ooh, them refund checks.
Them refund checks
used
was
to
hitting. The refund checks was hitting, and I would like, my friends would get their refund check, liquor store, boom, mall, boom. And like, so here's one thing I had to learn. Since I lost my parents so early, one of the benefits of that was I never felt comfortable with less than $5,000 in my bank account, right? Because I am the fail safe. I am the last resort. So like so if I had $5,000 in my bank account, I was broke. So my refund checks wasn't nothing for me to play with. Like in my books, now I was saving my money. My money, and then one day I left myself logged in on my bank account in college.
Yeah.
And my friends must have saw like 9,400 and something.
Yeah.
Like, hey, bro, what the fuck? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, like, let's go to the, no. So then it became like a thing. Like, hey, Carter got it. Like, look, hey, look, man. Like, let me get a drink, food, or whatever. Hey, man, you sponsor this party, like, you know. So for me, it was like just accidentally letting my friends know that my definition of broke was different than their definition of broke.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's a big learning lesson there for y'all too. It's like, you got to raise your floor. At one point in time, for everybody, for broke was, I check my account is $0, $10.
Some people was that negative.
Yeah, negative.
Oh, like, how much can I swipe it to negative?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I remember like people like, yo, so technically because it's $3 in here, if I swipe, it's gonna go through.
Yeah.
Whew. But like raising your standard, right? Yeah. So it's like at one point 0 was your floor. Then maybe it's 1,000. Then 10,000, but you really have to psychologically train yourself that 10,000 is the same as 0, right? And then get to a point where 100,000 is the same as 0. Right. And it might sound crazy now, but if you do that, right, you'll theoretically never go broke because literally, you know, like I'm hustling like my life depends. I'm fighting for my life if I see, you know, just this amount of money in there, right? And it's not 0. So that's a really good exercise to train yourself, right, to raise your floor.
Okay. Now, so we just talked about our first black tax experience. Now, when was the first time you had to say no, and how did you handle it? Because I feel like people don't know how to say no gracefully, and therefore they just do it. Because once you don't have the out, I ain't got it. At a certain point, you gotta stop. They know you got it. You know I ain't got it. So how did you handle like that first? Like, man, I got it, but I can't.
Yeah. So it was an inflection point where I was still very much in the growth phases of business, and I was just like, the way I let him down, I was just like, hey, while I technically do have the funds in my account, based upon where I'm at in my entrepreneur journey, like I need to have a buffer to weather the ebbs and flows, to weather the storm, right? You know, I'm hiring my first assistant, or whatever. I think it was a BA or something at the time. I was like, but I need to put myself in a position to where I can handle it. So I can't help you out right now. What I can do, however, right, is as opportunities open up where I might need help in the business, which is a great transition point, there are things that you might be able to help facilitate for me, which I can then compensate you for. Right. Or you can tell me what the desires of your heart are. Right. And maybe through my entrepreneur journey, that I might be able to give you some insight to where you don't need to ask me. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of let them know that I couldn't help them out in the way they needed. And I was able to give them something. Because what I did very, very early on is I baked in like my giveaway budget. I was like, once I've maxed out that, I've maxed that out, right? So someone else has already tapped it, they have already tapped it. So I had
getting good. Look, hey, you know, first of the month.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So like I was like, once if I got something left, cool, you can have that. But like I'm not gonna go beyond that because it's almost like if you work hard and you have open space in your calendar on a Saturday, and so it's like, yo, bro, can you do X, Y, and Z for me? Technically, but if I'm not prioritizing myself, then I'm putting myself in a position where I'm always at the expense of someone else and I'm never taking care of me, right? And you can't do that because at the end of the day, that's not going to be good for anybody. I'm going to start resenting the people that I'm helping. And like I think in church, they call it like burnt offering, right? Where I don't want to give it and be like resentful. I want to give it and be joyful. Like I'm happy to be able to bless you with this. Not like, oh my gosh, here we go again, right? And so I just kind of like broke it down to him like that. Like, hey, I would love to. This is why I can't. If anything changed, I'll let you know. But here is also a solution to where this might not be a recurring thing.
Facts. I think that's valuable. And I love what you said. So that what you said is actually changed my life in like 4 years ago. So I was watching a Jim Rohn video. Shout out to the late great Jim Rohn, and he was talking about how he trained his kids to when they ask for money. Hey, Dad, can I have some money? You know, can I have some money for this? He let them know, like, hey, like this family has money. The vaults are full here, right? The vaults are full, but I want you to change the question to like not can I have some money, but how can I work to receive some money, right? So for me, I started to shift once I learned that strategy, I started to shift that to my family members. I'm outside of my sister and like my aunt who they just get whatever they want. Anybody else that comes to me, nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, like, hey man, can I get this? Well, yeah, I have it, but here's what I need you to do in order to earn it. Right. So my niece asked me for some money. I'm like, yeah, I got you, but I need you to go on TikTok. I need you to send me 50 videos of reels in the tax space so I can study my content. Right. And if they don't do it, you don't want the money enough.
Hey.
And now problem solved. Right. But if they do it, I compensated that because I understand that money is never a solution to money problems.
Facts.
Ever.
Right.
You'll spend it, you're going to be back here again. But if I give you a job opportunity, I pay you for it, I make more money, and then guess we come back, we can run it back. We can run it back. But it's crazy. Guess how many people, when I gave them the opportunities, didn't come back for the money?
Because some people want handouts, right? Some people want handouts. Speaking of which, here's a solution that can help. So there's a lot of people that might be in our ecosystem who can relate to this, right? Like being the one or experiencing the black tax. And one thing I kind of want to throw out there is that you can do it, but you got to be strategic about it. So for example, my mom just retired last year, right? And one of the things that I did is I'm an investor, obviously, right? And I invested in a private equity fund where I was like, hey, look, typically with the amount of money that you've accumulated for retirement, it's not going to cut the mustard, right? You're not an accredited investor. So here's what I'll do. I'll take what you have. I'll make up the difference in terms of what you need to fund your lifestyle through retirement. I'll invest in this fund. Now the fund is paying her instead of me every time I go out and do active work, having to send my mom X, Y, and Z. Right now, the fund is doing it on her behalf. So I say that to say, what assets can you invest in, right, that can produce cash flow, right, so that you can use that to help fund and support the family, right, versus it being like I'm going out and having to keep working and then spend my money. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of athletes or successful entrepreneurs, like that's the key. Like I know you want to it feels good to just go into the bank account and give mom 25,000 or 15,000 or 10,000, whatever it is. But think of it a little bit more strategically and say, if I can find an asset that can produce the cash flow mom, sister, or cousin needs, then technically that's going to continue to produce, and I still own the asset, or you can gift it to them, whatever you decide, and the asset's doing the work, right?
Yeah, and I think that's so dope because instead of giving like 20,000, 15,000, 10,000, you can just take that 100,000, invest into an asset, and if you can find an asset that gives you a 10%, return, 20%, whatever, you can now pay them a monthly compensation, a monthly stipend, and I think that's the best way to do it because you don't want your family to come in and ask for random money, so you just put them on a payroll that something else pays for, and then it's their job. Like I'm giving you this amount of money per month. How you spend it is up to you. Exactly. But this is the allowance. Just like our parents gave us allowance. Now this is the allowance.
Yep.
How you spend it is up to you. But like now I no longer have the guilt and it's not coming out of my pocket to pay this off.
Yep. So, you got to be strategic because again, you have the heart and desire to help, but you don't want to do it at the expense of shooting yourself in the foot.
Yep.
Because all that's going to do is create resentment, frustration, and you might not be able to do the thing that you want to do as it relates to generational wealth.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like you got to be strategic about it. What are some other maybe side effects of black tax or even like the financial trauma associated with like just not having it, right? Like I feel like one of the things I mentioned was like hustle culture, right? It's just like feeling like I got to keep going to get it because so many people depend upon me.
What's up, guys? Congratulations on joining Team Black Wealth. But we'd be remiss if we didn't give you a uniform as an official player on the team. So head over to shop.melaninmoney.com and grab your official uniform for Wealth Builders Uncovered. We'll see y'all in practice.
Like, what else do you feel like are just like kind of some side effects of?
Yeah, I mean, I think being broke is a superpower. Again, I'm just a person that try to look at things optimistically. Being broke for me was one of the best things that ever happened in my life. I remember the roaches. I remember the rats. I remember having to wear the same thing to school. I remember living in a hotel. I can still smell the hotel breakfast in the Days Inn. Like if I smell, it brings me back to those days. I will never be broke again because I know how it feels. I'm not going back.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Most people, they lived middle class just enough to be comfortable. So I think the financial trauma of being broke, the financial trauma of not knowing where your next meal comes from, if that doesn't motivate you every single day, then I don't know what will.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to stop looking at being broke as a detriment or as something that happened to you and like it's the world's fault, it's somebody else's fault. It happened. Take that, leverage that to get to the next level because I ain't going back. So I think for me the financial trauma of being broke has helped me ascend to levels that I didn't think I could reach and want to stay there. Because being broke is bad. But being broke, they find out how it feels to have money, and then going back to being broke. That's worse.
That's way worse.
So I ain't going to. So for me, that trauma is motivation.
Yeah. Okay. Now I like that. And one thing I always say that we have to be mindful of is the same fire that can keep a house warm can burn it down. Right. So it's like you never want to lose that edge. You never want to lose that hunger. But at the same token, it's like we also want to get to a place where we can find contentment, where we can find people, like we can rest, right? Some of us haven't gotten to that point because we feel like they're so dead set on not going back. It's like, I can't stop. And I'll commend you. I think that you have found that balance. Like, yo, where's he going again? Like, is he out of the country again? Like, you have found that balance.
Yeah, I found a balance.
To being able to travel, work hard, but play hard. But it's important to have that, because if not, you know, again, then you'll start to resent the process because you feel like, man, I'm doing all this for everybody else and I'm doing nothing for myself.
Yeah, man. And like, personally, my cousin struggles with that because he was, so the best thing he did for me, shout out to my cousin he was the first superstar of the family.
Yeah.
And so watching him ascend and, like, you know, on the TV shows and having all the money, all that, like, everybody pulled from him. And I watched him give, right? Because he's a giver. Yeah. And I watched the resentment in him being like, man, like, when, you know, like, everybody was pulling, but like when it's time for me, not any financial assistance, but like being there for me, coming to my shows, if I'm going through something like whatever. He resented because he expected if he gave that people would reciprocate it. Right. And I watched that happen to him. So like me taking mental notes, being like, yo, like, he did it right. He was the what do they call it, like the
Trojan horse, or
you know, when the commander goes out and gets the arrows in the in the back.
I know what you're talking about.
So like he was that first commander and took the arrows in the back, and I watched that happen so that when it was my turn, I knew how to handle it a little bit better, because I didn't want to have that resentment that I saw him have for the friends coming around and all that, and then when he needed the most, they weren't there. So I'm just like, I would just be extremely mindful, because watching him go through that, I didn't want to have that same resentment. Yeah,
that makes sense. I'm trying to think, what's another side effect? Talked about the young lady who was like, yo, I'm not even having kids.
Well, a side effect, don't let your family borrow money. That's a mistake.
Just give it to them.
Yeah, like, if you want to keep the love that you have for your family members, letting them borrow money is putting gasoline on the fire, right? Because ain't nothing worse than seeing Uncle at the family reunion. You gave Uncle $1,000 last month.
He dripped out. He got the gators on.
Like, you know what I'm saying? He going to liquor store, making liquor runs behind bottles.
Or you see somebody online and they're on vacation, like, oh God, that's when I knew I kind of had
the worst is seeing that section in the club,
bro. You overpaid for liquor in the club with my money that you owe? Wow, bro, that's crazy.
I see the meme.
That's crazy.
I see the meme the other day. It said dudes be in the club celebrating bottle service like they just bought some land or something.
I saw that too. I died. I saw that too. Act like they just bought some land. That is hilarious. Yeah, that's funny. That's hilarious.
So I think this loaning family money is a mistake, and it could cause, you know, relationship trauma as well as financial trauma.
Right.
What's going on, guys? My name is George Achampong.
I'm Jacqueline Shattuck.
And I'm Carter Cofield.
And we are the founders of Melanin Money. And the reason why we started Melanin Money is because we know that there's a great disparity when it comes to building wealth among people of color. We have a tremendous mission that we want you guys to join, right? Every single year, we want to help at least 1,000 people improve their net worth by $100,000, which will create $100 million of new black wealth every single year.
Can you imagine $100 million of new black wealth every year? As it stands right now, for every $1 that a white family has, a black family has a mere 10 cents to match that dollar. We want to increase the wealth in the black community so that we can have equal opportunities.
Simply put, we're about closing the wealth gap, and it starts with you.
So, see you inside.
So another thing again too is like, try to cut the handouts off early. Right? It's like,
because they're not going to get any less. They only going to get worse the more money you make. Is that, you know what I'm saying?
Empower. These are people you love, people you care about, right? And at the end of the day, you're just a regular person. You know what I'm saying? And so like, you need to empower them to let them know the same way I found this desire, I found this passion to be able to provide for myself. I believe in you to be able to do the same. So how can I support that? Because the thing is, I'd rather my dollars go to support that so that you can learn a new skill or whatever the case may be, and you can feed yourself versus me just giving you like handouts all the time. So it's either one, I'm investing in an asset that's going to do the work, or two, I'm going to guide you and maybe invest in you so that you can do the work. You know what I'm saying? Either one. But the handouts, they can't persist.
They can't. And then I think on top of that, we need to understand that we might be the first, but we don't want to be the last.
Right.
Like, I don't want success to be an outlier for my family.
Facts.
I want them to know that it's a normacy.
Normalize black wealth. Shout out to Normalize Black Wealth.
Normalize Black Wealth, same as plug. But I want it to be a normacy. So like I'm installing in my nieces and nephews, and I've been blessed this past 2 weeks to like be Chicago with my family, Atlanta with my other family, my nieces, nephews, cousins. I just saw everybody, and my main goal of this trip was to just push the narrative of this being normal.
Right.
Like we're in rooms where being a millionaire is normal. Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And like, I want my family to understand it, because I think the hardest thing for them to grasp is that it's possible. And if you just give them instead of showing them, then you might be the first person to make it out, but you end up being the last. So question, I know we kind of like jump right into it because we're on a time crunch. Do you want to go over any, I don't know, current events? I feel like there's a lot happening in the world. Any current events? I mean, Apple.
That's the one I was thinking about.
Okay, yeah. Apple was at 4.50.
Yeah, 4.15, I think, like that.
Yeah, interest rate on a savings account. That's insane.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Right. But the bigger picture there is the power of building a brand ecosystem.
Yep.
Right. It's like, because they have so many customers, right? Apple can launch these products, and I guarantee you, even if they only get 10% adoption, right? That's what 180 million people, right? Then now they're bigger than most banks that are not in the top 5. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you, and that's how I like to think as a CEO. It's like, how can I build something now and build it in a way that 4 years from now, there's a lever that we can pull, right? Because of what we did 3 years prior. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things like on the Melanin Money roadmap, like that y'all just have no idea about. Like, it's just crazy. But it's come on now.
Loaded.
But it's all about the intentionality of how you start. How you start is how you finish. Matter of fact, shout out to Samantha, you know, who we all know and love, who works for us. She said something genius the other day. She said, it's more important how you onboard new employees than how you offboard them, right? And the reason why I thought that's such a genius statement is because it's the same thing in business. Like, you have to put so much intentionality with how you start, right? Because that is going to dictate how you finish, right? It's not like trying to figure it out along the way is cool, but like, you got to have that foresight to say, hey, this is the intention that we're setting, because it allows you to do things and move different pieces on the chessboard along the way, right? So shout out to Samantha. Yeah, shout out.
Yeah. She on vacation right now. You know, taking care of the good people.
Yeah,
you know
you already know.
Yeah, but I think that was one of the biggest one of the biggest current events. Just watching Apple, like, just again, when you build a brand, you can like take over. You can one idea can make you millions and millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? But
like their AirPods alone
revenue
make more money than so many tech companies. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's completely
like
insane.
It's insane. Anything else you saw that caught your eye?
Other than that, I think people just need to know about the podcast tour, bro. Like, just need
the podcast tour.
Yeah, but that's the biggest news.
Yeah, don't ever play yourself. Right? Don't ever play yourself, right? So as of this recording, you missed Houston, or you didn't, right? Or you didn't. And it was probably vibe. I mean, we're predicting it, right? It's gonna be a vibe, right? But you still have a chance to attend LA
in May.
In May.
We got New York in June. And Summertime Shy in July.
I got a ring to it. Summertime Shy in July.
Summertime Shy in July. So if you want to join us for the podcast tour, all you have to do is go to proofandprofits.com to get your tickets. We're almost sold out of VIP seats in every city. I think Chicago and New York are the only two cities that might have VIP tickets still left. So if you want to check it out, go to proofandprofitstour.com, enter the keyword profit for a special discount, and we'll get this. And y'all get to catch
it's the word. It's the word what?
It's the word profit.
Should we add those shirts to the store? I think we should add them to the store. What do you think?
I mean, I think we should add them to the store.
Yeah.
Okay. So if y'all want to catch this vibe in person, man, vibe with us, go out to dinner with us, my VIP people, and just really get to learn and ask us questions. We would love to have you. So proofandprofits.tour.com, and we'll see y'all there.
Absolutely. One funny thing I didn't realize. Did you realize that Netflix was still had their DVD division? They were still like sending out DVDs. They just shut it down.
I forgot they had a DVD division.
Yeah, they just shut it down after 25 years. I was like, that's still a thing?
I mean, I don't even have a DVD.
Exactly. Who still even has a DVD player? But apparently Netflix was still had the DVD division after 25 years. That's wild. But other than that, I mean, like you said, the real news is the podcast tour. So, but yeah, so think about how the black tax, if it does impact you, how you can be more strategic with how you help your family members, how you empower your family members, and how you create an ecosystem that, like you said, you might be the first millionaire, but not the last, right? And empower them, right? So that they can do the things that you're doing and not look at you as the one. We don't want you to be the one. We want you to be one of many.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that starts with you being intentional and empowering your family and building out a generational wealth ecosystem. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Until the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.